Perfect.
All right.
Good. We've been needing that. I've been asking about that. Are we on? Are we live?
Pre-recording.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. We're pre-recording. No, the countdown up there is what we've been needing for the whole time. That way I don't have to keep asking you how much time we got.
have?
I know everybody's getting tired of it.
How are you?
I'm good. Captain, how are you?
Well, I live in day to day.
You ever have one of those days when you're just not feeling it?
Yes, sir.
That's me today.
Well, I was fixing to say, I'm standing out there watching my son do his fun run at school, and then the bottom drops out, and you got to go somewhere, and now you're soaking wet, and
Well, here's what I'm gonna tell. I'm gonna say the same thing that I tell my daughter. If you get caught out in a storm, it's your own fault because every phone now has radar on it.
true, very
And all
true.
you got to do is look at it, and it'll show you if it's gonna rain.
Yeah,
We're living in 2024.
you're right.
5.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a loser. So we got that topic out of the way. How's the county been?
It's good. It's running pretty good. Last week, I was at the doctor's office last week, so I gotta kind of brag on. I told you about my cardiac scoring test last time, right? I'm bragging about that all the time. I think everybody knows about that because I was so proud of that scoring test that I had because the doctor told me I was going to live to be 120.
Okay.
That's what he said. But I had 2 appointments last week. I had an eye appointment. I'm getting old, so I got cataracts now. I got to get a cataract taken off, hopefully July. And I had an endoscopy. You ever had an endoscopy? Upper GI?
Is that where they go in and stretch your esophagus?
No, they just go down in there with a light
and look around
and a camera and look around, take a couple biopsies. I've been having that done for about 10 years. It's the best sleep you'll ever have.
It's the best sleep you'll ever.
Oh, they give you fentanyl. Right? Oh. They give you a little dose of some I don't know what
some
kind
of the lab I
don't
stuff.
know what grade it is, industrial grade, maybe fentanyl. It's the good stuff, that they're supposed to give you when you're getting ready to go into the operating room. But they give you a little bit of that to relax you, right? Before they go in and knock you out and put the scope down your throat. So I always look forward to that, because it's like you're floating on a cloud.
Right.
When you're leaving that room going into the OR. And then, of course, they give you the really good stuff. And the last thing you hear is, Sheriff, we're going to take really good care of you. Don't worry about nothing. We'll see you in a little while.
And then it's lights out.
And then that's it. And you wake up and they're shaking you, telling you got to sit up. It's the best sleep you'll ever have. I'm telling you, I can see why people get addicted now to fentanyl because it's like you're just floating. It's like everything. I mean, you could cut my head off with a rusty pocket knife, and I'd laugh at you the whole time,
And speaking of disclaimers, one thing we should add on that is the type of stuff that we get when we go to have a procedure done versus the type of junk that's out here
the dirty 30s
on the street. It's the difference between driving a rocket ship and driving a Ford Pinto. One has science behind it. Is reliable and can do what it's supposed to. It can take you to the moon.
And the other one's got the cartel behind it.
That's it. That's it. And it could kill you the first time you use it. So
exactly.
Although it works good for our listeners out there, I hope they understand that.
Well, that's what it's meant for. That's the reason why it was created, and that's what it's meant for. Is for that kind of stuff. But anyway, it worked good. Everything checked out. The sheriff is healthier than I've been in a long time. So.
Well, I'm glad you told us that because I'm sure there's probably thousands of our local listeners that go to bed every night wondering.
That are worried about me?
Sure about
they are. They should be. That was the same day we had the blood drive.
Okay.
The commemorative Anthony Kuchar, the deputy I lost last July 3rd. We had a blood drive in his name, and went great. Had a lot of good people show up and gave blood. There's always a blood shortage in the area. And if you have a rare blood, the more we're needing you to come. So I think we're going to start doing it maybe even a couple of times a year.
Okay. Do you recall how many people actually showed up?
Last count that I had, and I left earlier that day, we was in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Decent drive.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It went on to 7 o'clock that night, but Unfortunately, I couldn't give any because I'd had, a little bit of fentanyl earlier that day before my upper GI, so I couldn't give any. But I walked around, made sure everybody was doing all right, and asked them if they needed any crackers or drinks.
Now,
Doing my civic duty.
was it like we've done it in the past?
I wasn't heckling at all. I wasn't giving anybody a hard
Yeah,
time, and I
yeah,
wasn't heckling.
that's a lie. I can tell right now. So did we have it like? And I didn't get a chance to go. I was out of town. Did we have like we usually do, like the sheriff's office versus the police department versus the fire department versus
Well,
ambulance
it
service?
was law enforcement against fire and EMS.
Well, they always show out more than we do.
Well, police won.
Really?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. I
surprising.
mean, we had a big lead. Law enforcement had a big lead over fire and EMS. I don't know. I don't know how it ended, but I'm pretty sure we won.
Well,
I'm
good.
pretty sure if we didn't, somebody would have already told me about it. I also had a very productive meeting with our judges and our DA and a few other elected officials in the county. We went over a few topics, and it's always really, I'm a big communicator. I think communication's key in anything you do, especially in government work. But we sat down and had lunch and talked about a lot of good stuff, and it was a very good meeting.
So was
And
it like all the circuit court judges and?
it was two of our circuit judges, our sessions judge, our DA, and our circuit court clerk, our county executive, one of our county commissioners, and an administrative assistant was also there to kind of help with taking some notes and anything that needed to be recorded. So it was a great meeting.
What were some of the bigger takeaways?
Well, we addressed.
Because obviously the caliber of this meeting, something usually comes up, or there's a lack of information somewhere where somebody's like, "Hey, I think we all need to get
Well,
together."
what we address a lot, but there was a couple of topics of discussion. One of the bigger ones was probation. We talked in detail about probation and what needs to be done with that, if there's any changes that need to be made. We also talked about different kinds of plea agreements. Um, I had a few questions about how the court system's operating now because I don't go to court much anymore now that I'm in my role. And so there was a few things that I wasn't up to speed on. And so I had some questions. Um, I mean, one of the questions I had if there was anything in between jail time and probation. Um, because years ago there was public service
Right.
or community service.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember the General Sessions judge a long, long time ago would include community service in a lot of his sentences.
Right.
For example, if you
Well,
had
now
a
hold on just a minute. When you say a long, long time ago, for me, that's like Judge England, but for you, that's going to be Otis Nippers,
no, 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 no,
maybe
not
Mr.
that long
Bryant,
ago.
something.
Not that long
Okay.
ago. I mean, I know you're only I know you're real young, but no. Anyway, I can remember community service being included in a lot of sentencing.
Right.
Um, and I don't know. I don't think we do that much anymore. So that was one of the questions I had. And but anyway, it was a great meeting. There was some other stuff that was discussed, and I made sure everybody knew that I've got room in my jail right now. Um, I made the comment, I don't want to influence any of your decision making while you're um, deciding the outcome on somebody's punishment, but I do have room. Bear that in mind. I've got a few empty beds right now that I need people in. I say need people in. I don't really need people in, but um, I have a 261 bed jail, and I've got about 160 in there now.
Hmm.
So I got about 100 empty beds.
It's a nice vacancy to have.
Well, it's easier on the staff. It's less stressful on my jail staff because because people aren't stacked up in there. A few years ago we had about 60 sleeping in the floor
Mm-hmm.
because we were so overpopulated, and it makes for a rough day on the jail staff.
I'm sure.
When it's crowded and people aren't getting along and there's a fight every night. It makes it tough on the jail staff. So it's been pretty good. But I don't know. I'd like to think that another reason why our jail population is a little bit low right now is because our efforts are paying dividends. You know,
Starting to see some fruits.
Well, that we have a lot of programs in the jail right now. I keep talking about the programs we have, but I think they're paying off. You know, it's keeping some of these people from returning to the jail. Um, Also, people the types of crimes that are being committed now, and you tell me if you see the same thing. I don't think I don't think I and I don't have the numbers, but I would dare to say that our violent crime is kind of on a little bit of a decline. Because, and I mean,
Hmm.
I may be jinxing us by saying this, but I see a lot more what we call petty crimes, misdemeanor crimes, that kind of stuff. Not not violent crimes or violent felonies or aggravated felonies as much. I mean, the call volume, I was just looking at our call volume before you got here. I mean, we had 1,130 calls in the month of April.
It's about normal,
About normal. It fluctuates between 900 and 1,200
right?
a month, but I think it's the type of calls. Now, this past weekend, um, everybody wanted to run and resist, it seemed
Okay.
like.
So a good happy day for law enforcement.
Man, I got one deputy. I won't say his name, but he got wore out this past weekend. He had a domestic um, that he had to deal with, and he had to go hands on with an individual, and then it seemed like it was a couple of days later we had a pursuit, and I don't know, and I'm not sure who all was involved. I think it originated in the south end of the county, and then it wound up almost in Lawrenceburg. But there were several, more than one agency involved, and a young girl that decided she just wanted to run from the police.
A female.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's unusual.
yeah, young girl, and then she wanted to resist a little bit
Ah,
when it came time to go into custody. And that was another one. And then we had an incident at the hospital. We had, I think it started as a domestic, some kind of a domestic at the hospital. And this guy was, they was just wanting him off the premises, and he was refusing to leave. And we were trying to help him to leave, and then he decided he was going to try to fight us. And then
right.
you can imagine what happened. He spent the better half of that day in the restraint chair
Mm,
at the sheriff's office.
that's not a good
We
place to
had
be.
3 taser deployments last month, you know, and that's I think they were all this past weekend. It seems like I want to say there was at least 2 this past weekend, maybe, but I don't know what it was. People just didn't want to go peacefully.
Maybe a change in the weather. The stars aligned
You know, it's
wrong.
summertime. You know, you always see a spike in crime in general in the summer months. You've been
Hey,
doing it long enough, but
speaking of violent crime, my wife, again, I don't have Facebook, thank the Lord. But she was showing me something online where we had a local Lawrence County man that got sentenced to like 42 years for a really bad incident regarding a child.
yeah, well, that one, and I don't know how long I don't know how long ago that case was. Um, we had a trial Tuesday on a guy, and he got convicted of rape of a child.
Okay.
Um, Different. It's a different case, but this one, from what I was told, happened a few years ago, and they just now had a trial on it this past Tuesday. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but he's looking at 20 to 60 years,
Hmm.
depending on how they range him. So man,
Well, I
that's
think if the child is under 4 years of age, it has to be at 100%. From 4 years to 8 years, I think it's either at 70 or 80. But I like them kind of laws on the books. It says, one, if you do this, you're scum. You're a piece of dirt. We're fixing to send you away to prison. But if you do this to a certain age range, we're going to punish you even further.
well, I don't know, I may make a few of my judge friends a little bit um, mad, but I think there needs to be more mandatory sentencing.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, it's just, and not that I don't have any confidence in our judges on how they sentence people, but when it's mandatory, it takes
Oh yeah.
takes it out. I haven't. I mean, you know, what was the mandatory sentence on if you got caught selling drugs near a school? Was it 10 years?
Yeah, the Drug Free Zone Act.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was a mandatory
Yeah,
10.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like criminal homicide. I can remember, and it's a judge that's no longer on the bench. But we had, well, it was Fat Sam's killer. Whenever she was convicted of criminal homicide, the judge, the jury left the courtroom. The judge was like, "All right, let's schedule a date for sentencing." And that's when Gary House stood up and said, "Sir, there's no need for one. This is mandatory. She's going to jail for life."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great. Convicted, this is your sentence automatically. And oh, by the way, it's life."
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, it's got to be more cost efficient. I
Oh,
mean, you don't
absolutely.
have to reconvene court to decide what the punishment is if it's mandatory.
Yep.
I mean, I'm all for it. I wish we had more mandatory sentencing on a lot of our laws, but I'm not a lawmaker. You know, we bring the cases in front of the court and let the courts hash it out. Try not to get personally involved, and it's hard. You know it as well as I do. It's
Yeah.
hard not to get personally
Oh yeah.
involved in some of these, but. Yeah, last week we was I got such a tough job. You know what I had to do last week?
Time paint your fingernails. I don't know. Iron your uniform. What all do
My
Marines do these days?
fingernails.
I don't know. Go
Uh,
ahead.
I had to judge barbecue. That's one of the that was one of the toughest assignments I had last week. You know, NATRA, the North American Trail Riding Association
Uh
down
huh.
in West
West
Point,
Point.
they had a big ride down there last weekend, and they had a barbecue competition. So I got
Was that last weekend?
that was last Friday
I was
afternoon.
telling them I'd like to go to that because you could actually pay and be a judge and get to taste everybody's.
Mm-mm, no,
Or is
no.
this a different one that I'm thinking
Different
of?
one,
Ooh,
different one. We got
still need to go.
invited, me and two other elected officials and another guy got invited to come down there and judge ribs. I ate so many ribs I didn't even want to see a rib when I left. Man, they were good.
I can
Um,
only imagine.
yeah, they had a great turnout. Natra does such a good thing for the community. They raise a ton of money for the kids' place, and it's just a real good organization. But that was a tough one. I mean, that was a tough one judging barbecue last Friday night. I also had a golf scramble that I had to play
Oh my
in.
gosh! And I
Yeah,
bet this was just a horrible
you know,
day.
it's
I
just
mean,
that's one
just
it's
huh.
those assignments that you gotta do when you're sheriff. But but it was the Kiwanis Club had their golf scramble last week, and so I invited the sheriff in Wayne County, Shane Fisher, and the previous sheriff in Lewis County, Dwayne Kilpatrick. They came over and played with me and one of my lieutenants at the golf scramble. You know, the chamber had a golf scramble yesterday, and they postponed it because of the weather.
I'm glad because right
It
now,
barely, well, it was yesterday,
right,
and it
and
just
it's supposed to come a flood.
yeah. In their defense, it did, but I mean, it was such a nice afternoon. And then today, it's coming a what do they call it? A frog something?
Yeah,
Frog strangler or something.
yeah.
But
Hopefully,
the FCA's golf scramble is today and tomorrow. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the radar, but the north end is getting hit now, and I think the south end got hit with some pretty bad weather earlier. And it looks like there's a lot more coming.
there is. North Mississippi and northern Alabama got hit pretty hard today. They was reporting ping pong size hail and winds of 65 miles an hour. That's some one.
As
That's
you say that,
yeah.
there's
There's
thunder.
the thunder. One, that's some pretty good size hail too. But can you imagine ping pong size hail moving at 65 miles an hour?
Oh, that's knocking every window out you have. And
Yeah.
can you fix hail damage on a car?
See, you used to be able to turn that in on. Oh, okay. To answer your question, yeah, because one of our local firefighters, from what I hear, I'm not going to mention no names because I don't know if he wants to be public or not. But from what I hear, this old boy is a wizard at little dings and hail damage.
Hmm.
He went off to some training and has got his own equipment now. So yeah, if somebody's looking for some hail damage, just call down there to the fire department. If they want to tell you who it is, they'll tell you who it is. But hey, I got a question.
All right.
Ice. I know you've had some meetings with local legislators and federal representatives and stuff like that. I'm getting a lot of questions asking. We see on Fox News what the federal government is doing for immigration enforcement and roundup and detention and so on and so forth. What's going to be the local role?
Well, I would tell you to Google 287G. That is what Giles County just signed on. That's what we are in the mix of signing on with 287G. It's basically coordinating local law enforcement with federal law enforcement to make arrests on illegals that have warrants. This isn't a roundup, you know.
Right.
This is individuals in our area that have warrants
That have
and
active warrants.
yeah, and
Okay.
the feds are looking for, just like everything that we're seeing with the MS-13 and the other terrorist organizations that are, or other gangs that have now been
Classified.
classified as terrorist organizations. But also, it allows you to house federal prisoners, including illegals in our facility. And it's just like I was saying, I've got 100 empty beds right now, so we're looking at housing some federal inmates too.
So, two questions on top of that. The first coming from a taxpayer. If we're housing federal detainees, will we be compensated with federal money?
Oh yeah, yeah. The
Okay.
federal prisoners pay about double state prisoners.
Oh, okay.
So right now we have, and I don't have the numbers. I'm thinking it's probably somewhere in the 50s. Out of my 160 something jail population, I probably have 50 of state prisoners that we are currently housing, that are TDOC ready, that could go to the pen, but they stay and they do their time here in the county jail.
And we
Uh,
get compensated
we
for
get
that.
compensated by the state. It's about 40, 42 bucks a day or something
Wow, I thought it would have been more than that.
is what they pay us. But I mean, if you do the math, I mean, 42 times 50 times 365, that'll give you about
Yeah.
what the state prisoners generate. Um, and I don't want to call it revenue, but that's what we get from the state every year, pretty much. And that number stays right around uh, that 50 mark right now. And like I said, that yeah, so you take 80 $85 a day and times that by 50.
So you'd
Uh,
be looking right at about 40 grand a year to house 50 people, or to house 40.
no, no, no. I don't know what
Yeah.
you do.
So,
What kind of
so
math are you doing? Is that is
just
that
that's
is that a
normal
is that
math.
basic math
Listen, I
or
didn't go to
applied math?
Summertown, so
Oh,
it may shock you that I can equate. So 50 times 42, that's $2,100 times 365. Yeah. So that, okay, that's the federal side of it.
that's
So
the
yeah,
federal size, a million 500,000.
yeah. State side it was like 755,000.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's the potential of what can be what how we can be compensated for housing federal prisoners. Now, um, there's a lot of things that there's some variables that go into that. You
That
know,
was my next
I have
question.
to
Do you
get
have to do anything different?
U.S. Marshals will come down and they'll look at our facility and see if it meets the needs, because housing federal prisoners is a little different than housing state or local prisoners. I'm sure they've got to have certain privileges or something, you know. But anyway, I mean, our facility's only what 25 years old.
Right.
I think our jail opened in 2010, and it's still in really good shape. So yeah, if they come down and they look at what we have and say we're good, then I'm gonna let it be known that yeah, we'll take some.
Yeah. 50,
Um,
please.
like I said, that's a million 50. I don't know what it costs to house a prisoner, but either which way, I mean, I got empty beds.
So
Might as
this
well
is,
be utilized.
man, this is a real good topic. Because it takes care of two things at one time. You know, it gets these gang affiliated persons who have outstanding warrants off the street. Plus, it gets income coming into the county that normally wouldn't be here. So my follow up question to that is, of that 1.5 million, does the federal government tell you how you have to spend it, or they're just like, thank you for housing our prisoners, here's the money?
Now, from my understanding, that money just goes back into our general fund,
County general fund or
county
your sheriff's office?
county general fund.
Oh.
But it's I don't know if earmarked is a good word, but it's placed in a line to where we can use that to offset medical costs, or because right now we have our commissary in the jail, and our commissary is how the inmates get different things, anything from underwear and sock, which we provide that, but it's real basic. But if you want to get nicer stuff, it
Right.
goes through the commissary. And
Fruit
then
of Looms, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra money,
yeah,
right?
yeah, some micro briefs going to cost you a little bit more.
Gotcha.
But no, we got and then there's some food they can order, some like ramen noodles and different kinds of stuff, that through our commissary, and that generates revenue.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, I don't think we have e-cigs anymore, but we have the little nicotine pouches, that they can
Like the
buy.
Zens or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
the odorless, the spitless, you just put them in your cheek and gum, and because most of the people coming in to the jail had an addiction or currently have an addiction. Most of them smoke or dip. I mean, I dipped for 30 years. I just quit last year. And I mean, it's tough.
Oh, I
And I
can only
mean,
imagine.
if you're in an area where there's nothing much to do, I mean, I could totally see me if I had to, which I wouldn't last 2 weeks in jail. I wouldn't last 2 days in jail. But anyway, if I had to do some time, I mean, something to curb that jonesing for a cigarette or a
Mm-hmm.
dip would help. And we also have tablets in our jail now, and the way they are set up is there's like life skills and technical classes and basic reading, applied math, different types of stuff that the inmates have to take. Like there might be a 4 hour block of instruction on basic electronics or something, that they have to take, and if they complete it and they get a certificate for it, then it opens up maybe like solitaire or something,
Oh,
something like
okay.
that. So it's a reward based tablet
Gotcha.
for the inmates. But anyway, yeah, we got. I mean, the facility itself is still in really good shape. They, like I said, they built that jail, and I think it opened in 2010, if I remember correctly. And we still have the old jail
Mm-hmm.
back there where I worked in the early 90s, and that's where we house our work release. We got to keep them separate from. I know what you're going to say, so don't say it. But
90s. Now that might have been when you came out of the jail, but that ain't when you started. So this intrigues me, and I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but again, is on one hand, it interests me as being a business owner. Staying in the black and making the black, making your money go somewhere. There's a lot of people in this world that make money, but they don't ever use their money to make more money or have more income come in. So what I'm asking, does this money have to stay affiliated with the jail, or could you buy patrol cars with it?
no,
You
we
can't.
bought 2 cars last year with the money from the drug fund and e-cigs.
But you couldn't use this federal detention money for patrol vehicles or
Sure,
uniform. Oh, you could. Oh,
sure,
so
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
going
I
to the
mean,
general budget earmarked for the sheriff's department, not
that's it,
earmarked for the
man. It's
jail.
it's it
Awesome.
all comes down
Yeah.
to taxpayer dollars. Anytime you can offset taxpayer dollars.
Right. That's one of the main reasons
And
why I'm
I'm looking
asking.
at this from not as sheriff, but as Joe Citizen out here that pays his taxes like everybody else. When my taxes are taken from my income without my consent, I expect them to be spent wisely. You know, and nothing gets under my skin more than wasteful spending.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tell people I'm not a tightwad, but I'm practical with 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 how I spend my money. Same thing with tax dollars. I mean, it's the auditors make sure that we spend it, you know, wisely, but offsetting tax dollars either through the drug fund or the LISO program or through our commissary and stuff in the jail is, I mean, that's just common sense.
Right.
So, and we try to practice that every day. I'm always looking for ways I can save some money or offset tax dollars. I'm all about the bad guy. The drug fund. I talked a little bit about that with the judges. The drug fund just, I mean, it used to be. I can remember days when counties and cities had over 100 grand in their
Yep.
drug fund.
Yep.
but we don't see that so much anymore because most of our drug dealers and drug addicts don't have pot to pee in or
Mm-hmm.
window to throw it out of.
That's why you gotta go make him buys and bust them doors down.
Well, yeah, but even that, you look at the majority of our addicts are dealers, and the majority of our dealers are addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you was working, and when meth was being cooked, when every meth head out here thought they was a chemist, and
Yeah.
they could, you know,
Martha Stewart with the shake
yeah,
bottle.
you remember those
Yeah.
days, and it just it done it almost like a reversal because when I worked drugs in the 90s, it was still cocaine and marijuana and pills.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of your dealers didn't use, or if they did, they didn't use that much.
Right.
But they could still have a job, they could still
Oh yeah.
function, and they bought all kinds of cool toys, motorcycles, and jet skis, and bass boats, and stuff, assets that you could seize.
Yep.
Drug dealers these days don't have a lot of
Oh no.
assets. Not your mid level, maybe your really upper level, your couriers and your stuff like that have some stuff, but
Like you said, when I first got in the game, there was money to be seized, there was assets to be seized, and every now and then you heard the phrase, "Man, how much is my bond? I got to get out of jail. I'm gonna lose my job." To you asking, "Okay, where do you work?" To 10 years later, I don't. I can honestly sit here and be like, I'm pretty sure I stopped asking where do you work because that was no more. They was an addict to the point to where they couldn't
mm-hmm.
have any outside either dedication or affiliation with everything because they've done so their soul and life to this lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
It's man, it's just crazy, and now you see it even more. I saw a young lady sitting on the side of the road today. Um, don't know who she is, and yes, I mean you could say I'm judging just by the uh, two backpacks and one tote she was carrying. Excuse me. And her dog was not on a leash; he was on a piece of rope. And I'm like, here's a young lady, somebody's daughter, in her early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so appears to be able-bodied, but she's sitting there, on that sidewalk right there, looking like she's lost her best friend, and likely it's because she has sold her will and soul to this lifestyle, and that's crazy, and that goes along with talking about why our petty crimes, Sheriff. I'm a firm believer. One of the biggest reasons why our petty crimes are up is because of our homeless population.
Maybe. I think they're mostly concentrated inside the city limits. We don't see it as much out in the county, but I mean, we do see it. I was just talking to my drug guy, one of my drug guys, and a couple of my deputies before I came over. I had a complaint of a some. I don't know if they're squatters or um, if they've hoodooed this person that owns this property into letting them stay or whatever, but this was some abandoned property in the south end of the county. It's been abandoned for a while, and then the neighbors start seeing a camper gets pulled up in there and parked, and then a couple old junk vehicles, and obviously people are living there now,
Mm-hmm.
and they're complaining about the traffic and the rough people that are geeked out in the front yard and the four wheelers up and down the road at night, and so I sent my bloodhounds down there before before I left and told them to find out who they were and who told them they could be there and all that other stuff. So if the listeners, if you've got somebody you think is squatting on somebody's property, just call us.
Mm-hmm.
Just call us because if you're a neighbor and you're seeing it, then we need to go down there and find out because we worked another case 3 or 4 years ago. There was a chunk of property on the other side, on the other end of the county, and they lived out of state. They owned like a 40-acre piece of land, but they lived in another. And there was a barn and maybe an outbuilding or something there, and some people just decided that was where they was going to live, and it took a little coordinating back and forth because I think, if I remember correctly, One of the people that was shacked up there was like a nephew or something. He knew about the property.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling us that he had permission to be there, and they said it was okay. And anyway, so it took a little while to find out that it wasn't okay and it wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
The law, it's a little bit easier now when people are trespassing on your property, because you can remember the old rule was that if you established an address there, then you had to go through the procedure of
Of eviction and
right, a 30-day letter and then the eviction process. Well, it's not that way anymore. I'm not saying that it's totally not that way, but it's a little bit easier for law enforcement to kick people off your property if
yep.
they're there without permission, even if they claim that they have some kind of address established there. Um, but anyway, it's those kind of people that are doing that. Most of them have an addiction problem. Most of them are frequent flyers
Mm-hmm.
in my jail or somebody else's jail, or they wouldn't be there. If they was a good, honest, hard-working, tax-paying citizen, they wouldn't be doing that. So we'll come. Yeah, if you got some squatters on your property, just let us know.
Right, and something else that we've seen as far as the city is we'll get a call from a neighbor like, hey, nobody's lived in this house, for 9 months, a year, so on and so forth, and there's people staying there now. And then you go knock on the door, and they're like, well, Bill's the owner. Uh, we're renting it from Bill. And then you go to Bill's house, and as soon as you knock on the door and Bill answers the door, you're like, I can tell this guy's probably smoked a glass pipe within the past 24 hours. And you find, you do a little bit of digging and find out that Bill's not renting this place. Bill's getting his addiction taken care of by letting these people stay in a property that he has control of. And then next thing you know, you've got now two investigations going on in the drug world just from one phone call. So, that's something that we've seen that at first was a little surprising, but, after it happens two or three times, it's really not that shocking. It's shocking to the conscience. It's probably our regular citizens and our listeners out here, but uh, if they knew half of
Mm-hmm.
what goes on, they'd be surprised.
I had a good friend they found passed away. Was it last week? It seems like we've had since last time we was on here, 4 or 5, um, 10,
1065s.
1065. Sorry, got strangled there for a minute. Dead bodies, and we had one 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Poor guy had been there a while. Neighbors called it in. This guy that I've known for probably 25 years, he looked like he passed away on his front porch from, just a heart attack or something. But I have a 1065 text group on my phone that whenever one of my investigators gets called out and works a death scene,
You get notified.
he'll type up a little report and send it out so we all know, what happened. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like the old saying is it comes in threes. Well, it seems like it's fours and fives these
Mm-hmm.
days, and then
Yeah, I
you'll
mean, it
go
was
for a
just a
while.
few months ago that we were talking about, how we lost Reisner and, a
Mm-hmm.
few other prominent figures around here. And yeah, I'm ready for sunshine and healthy weather and healthy people.
Did you know last Wednesday was Administrative Professionals Day?
I did. I was listening to the
Did you
radio.
take your secretary out for lunch?
So, well, I married my secretary. Well, hold up. Let's
Well, did you
clarify.
take her out to
Let's
lunch?
clarify. The woman
No, no,
the
no.
woman I married
You
became
can't
my
take it back now.
secretary. I didn't. That sounded. Whoo. That sounded a little sideways. No, the woman I married became my secretary per se. Now she does. She's got a mind of her own, and she doesn't call me sir. Matter
Well,
of fact, some of the things that she does call me, you wouldn't think that we have. We just have a personal relationship, not a professional one. But
I've got
yeah, I didn't take her flowers.
I've got several. I got one, two, three, four, five. I think I got 5 administrative assistants or administrative professionals, I guess you could say, that work at the sheriff's office. And we took them out to lunch that day, and and hung out for a little while. And the whole time I'm sitting there telling myself, don't forget to get the waiter or waitress to get a picture. Because every year we do this and we always get a group photo of us sitting at the table. And the whole time I'm trying to remind myself, but there was BS flying in every direction. You know, everybody was laughing and joking and cutting up and telling stories. Walked out of there and forgot about it. But I did do it. You know,
In
the old
fact,
saying is if you didn't get a picture of it, it didn't
right, it
happen.
didn't
Well, it
happen.
happened,
Okay.
but I
Well, you
didn't.
probably got the bill to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they brought the bill, it was me and my captain and my chief deputy. And she come by and she says, "Well, how you want the bill?" And I says, "Well, tally it all up and split
Split
it
it
three
three
ways."
ways.
And you could have saw they
George
looked
was like,
at me.
yeah.
I was eating potted meat and crackers the rest of the week.
Hey, but at the end of the day, what y'all spend on that meal is pennies compared to what them ladies do in your office.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no, that they take a huge. All my people, all my the people in the command staff and the administrative assistants and all that. I mean, everybody down to the night shift CO and the night shift patrol deputy. I mean, I wouldn't have my job
Oh, absolutely.
if I didn't have those people. I also had a really good meeting with a couple of our reps from CTAS. Uh, the one is a sheriff or was a sheriff, I think, in Grundy County, and the other one ran a jail, a big jail, for a few years. And they come and they're very knowledgeable about sheriff's departments and jails, do's and don'ts, policies, procedures, laws, old laws on the books. I mean, if I have a question about maybe inmate labor, because I don't think I have to. I don't think I have to say why we really keep a close eye on our inmate labor, um, but we do, and you can get in some real you can get in a lot of trouble
Oh, yeah.
for abusing your inmate labor. Right now, we have work crews that go out. We have a paid work program
Mm-hmm.
now where we have inmates that go out and work at a couple of businesses out in the county. One is ADS in the old Murray building. They build automotive part racks. And then the other one is Southern Craft, I think, in Loretta. And I think they make caskets. But we have inmates that go to both. So in the morning, somebody from the plant will come pick them up, and then they'll go out and they'll work all day, and they get paid just like an employee. And so much of that money goes towards the program. So much of that money goes to their fines, fees, and restitution. And then some of it even goes towards their reinstatement fees so they can get their driver's license because a lot of them have lost their license
Right.
while they've been in. And so it's a really good program and it helps these guys out. And I mean, it's pretty strict criteria to even get on that program. You can't have any aggravated felonies or any violent felonies on your record or anything. But we've had a lot of success with it. We had one guy even bought a house, had saved up enough money to put a big down payment on a house
That
when he
must
got
have
out.
been quite the sentence.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the unpaid work release, and these guys go out to. We have a group of guys that go out to the landfill, and they'll either go out and get garbage off of roadways, or they'll be inside the building at the landfill separating plastics and
Now, that's the
cardboard and
guys in
stuff.
the green shirts that you see walking around,
Mm-hmm.
working around there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they do a lot of the separating. I don't know if you've ever been up there, but there's a big conveyor belt and
That
all this stuff's
separates the
coming down,
plastic and
and they're
stuff. Oh, yeah.
separating the recyclables.
Gary
And
Wayne's proud of that,
yeah, and I mean
as he should be. He did a good job.
it pays a pretty good chunk of money,
Mm-hmm.
and these guys do a good job out there. And if they weren't out there, of course the landfill would have to hire people to do that.
Right.
So it works out. It's a win-win. It gets the guy, excuse me, it gets the guys out of the jail cell and gets them out doing something. And then I think we have one or two that go over to the police department and wash cars and
Mm-hmm.
mop floors and stuff. And then we have one or two that does that. I think we have some that goes to public works. We have a maintenance crew that goes out with our county maintenance guy. So we have about 30 something probably that go out every day and work.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, years ago, the county, well, let me back up. It wasn't years ago. I was told when I took office that our jail was classified as a workhouse. Even though we've had work release in there, we wasn't classified as a workhouse or designated as a workhouse. So that's something we've got to do with local government. We went through all the paperwork and they showed us the procedure on how you got to go through your county commission to get it um, to get it on the agenda and make a resolution. Then you have to hire a committee and a few other things. But it's just another step that we needed to take to make sure we were doing things right at the jail on the jail side because like I said, you got to be careful about your inmate labor. I get asked all the time from people if they can have inmate labor. I got a text last night from a person wanting to know if they could get some inmates to move some stuff. And if I ever have any questions, I can call these reps from CTAS and ask them, and they give some really good information. But most of the time, I mean, if it's a nonprofit or a government agency entity or something, there's usually not a problem with it. I get asked a lot in the summer months if we can if the inmates can go clean up cemeteries. I wish they could. I would go out and buy lawnmowers and weed eaters from our drug fund and just send a crew out there all the time. But we can't unless it's and my chief deputy can answer this a little bit better. But there's if the cemetery is owned by a nonprofit or something, it's okay. But if it's privately owned by the church or something, it's an issue.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, if you need inmate labor, you can call us and ask us if it's something we can do. And
I mean, worst case scenario, all you're gonna do is say no.
yeah,
Or,
I mean
we can't. You're not gonna say no if you can. I mean, that's just
yeah, and I'm not going to tell you I can, and then get out there and get myself or my people
right.
in a mess because you can do that. Uh, but anyway, it works good. We've had a lot of success with it, and we're going to keep doing it. And I think we're moving in the right direction uh, on the jail side for sure. Any time that we can get something else in there that's gonna save some tax dollars and make it better for the inmates and better for the public, then it's for sure what we're going to do.
Yeah, and I do. Again, I like this idea of housing federal inmates because twice as much money and the requirements that they may have and may want you to have, they may have to pay for you. Like if they say, hey, in order to have this, you're going to have this installed. In most situations, the person asking you to have that will pay for it to be installed. So you just got an update not only in your jail, now you're going to be getting more money. That yeah, as a taxpayer myself, I like that. I like that a lot.
What you got this week? Looking forward.
My little boy hit a grand slam the other day.
Oh, good for him.
Hit another home run last night. I'm going to go to a few more ball games. We've almost wrapped up our season. I love watching them little ones play.
Well, I miss it, and that's what I was watching when you came in. You ever sit around and get bored and go through your pictures on your phone and see
yeah.
what you was doing this time last year?
Was that the tournament that you was listening to?
Well, I was watching. My daughter, she graduated,
right.
So I don't get to watch her play softball anymore. But I was just looking what I was doing May 2nd last year, and there was that video of her hitting that home run against Collinwood this day last year's. But yeah, you're lucky because you still get to go.
Yes, sir. I'm blessed. That's for sure. They're gonna grow up and, Lord willing, and go to college and hopefully play sports there. Hey, speaking of college, that commencement speech last night that Trump gave to the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, if you have not watched it, I mean, for an older man who has still got it from every aspect of his life, he showed up and showed out. And there was one part where he was like, something along the lines of the future is not going to be dictated or controlled by Harvard crimps and It's going to be controlled by the Crimson Tide. And I mean, that place just went wild. I don't care if you're an Alabama fan or not. That's not what I'm trying to get this.
Yeah.
Is he showed up in Alabama and gave about as good as pep talk as you'll ever see to a graduating class that I've ever seen. So, yeah, if you ain't watched that, jump on YouTube and check it out because it was pretty. It Trump style. He used the teleprompter, about half the time, and then the other half, I mean, he just,
I watched some of the 100 Days in Office speech. That was pretty entertaining. And then the dance moves at the end was on point. Also, and without diving too far off into politics on this show, but it, when I spoke a few 2 or 3 weeks ago in front of a group of people, and I was talking about the sense of optimism in law enforcement right now.
mm-hmm.
People are people are excited. You know, if you wear a gun and a badge, you finally feel like you got some backing again. But I think most people know about our DRMO program. I talk about it all the time. That's the program where we get military surplus, and we're able to use it, utilize it, or if it's not what we want, or if it's unserviceable or whatever, then we can get rid of it. We can sell it, and we can use that money to purchase vests and radios and stuff that we need, offsetting tax dollars. But depending on the president that's in office, depends on
How much surplus you get,
how much surplus is
mm-hmm.
really on there.
and what kind of surplus.
Exactly. I can remember when Obama was in office, the whole militarizing the police BS surfaced, and
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much decimated that program. I
Yep.
mean, there was really nothing on there that you could get or use. Well, then, you fast forward to 2016, and it opens back up, and then,
Yeah, we get a what is it, a Bearcat, a Humvee.
mm-hmm.
We're getting, I mean, decked out. Like if somebody wants to have a shootout, we've got 3 vehicles that can
Yeah,
take a 50 cal.
yeah. So, and then you go to 2020, and then it gets decimated again. Now, with the new administration, I was sent an email that came down from, it was another presidential order, and it's basically saying that the program is going to be opened back up, and equipment that was not obtainable is going to be up there to get again. So we already sat down with our program director or manager over the LISO program, and so what you got to do is you got to log on to the search portal,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to look at all the military bases, and then you can look at all the properties that's available, and then you request that property if you have a good reason why you need it and what you're going to do with it, and then if you get it awarded, you got to go get it. That's
Right.
the catch. So you might get something that you really need, but it might be in Columbus, Ohio. So you
Right.
you, you just kind of gotta look and see if it's worth the effort of getting. And then sometimes when you get it, it's not what it looked like in the picture.
Right. And you was like, I just drove to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I'm going to have to spend some more
Not to
money.
say anything bad about the people that are putting the property on there, but sometimes the condition code isn't accurate.
Mm-hmm.
A being like new and F being like parts
Right.
only. And you might get something that's a or a B, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a picture of it, and you're like, hey, man, this is good. And you go there,
Maybe a C
and it's
plus.
got a blowed
Right.
engine, the transmission's hanging out of it. But
And,
anyway,
and for our listeners out there, the police are not trying to become the military. At the end of the day, this is equipment that we can use to protect civilian lives, that will help protect police officers and allowing them to go home each shift, and helping us safely apprehend bad guys. At the end of the day, that's all it is.
that was pretty good.
With that being said,
That's a pretty good spill.
the opinions and views that I have are those of my own.
You're late.
In no way, shape, or form are they supposed to reflect any type of stance, views, or opinions the city of Lawrenceburg or the Lawrenceburg Police Department have.
I'm judging another tough assignment I've got, other than the judging barbecue and playing in the charity golf scramble.
Why can't I be a judge?
I've got
I'm fat.
a science fair that I'm judging next Tuesday.
Okay, I'm smart.
So if anybody's listening, you got a kid that's going to have something in the science fair.
Now, is this
I'll
countywide
be
or just
looking
for a
for
certain school?
I don't know. I was told to be there at this date and this time, and be ready to judge science projects. So
Okay.
there you have it.
Did they ask you for any qualifications before they? I mean,
Man, I built a car for the Boy Scouts when I was like 8 years old, and I
okay.
won like 12 blue ribbons and a Bearcat badge.
That's Bobcat. Bob.
Brownie badge.
Say
All right,
bye.
see you.